Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, back with another reaction video. And today, we are going to react to Remember Braceface. Yes, I do remember Braceface. Braceface was one of them shows that used to come on Sundays, actually. Not Saturday morning cartoons, but Sunday morning Sunday morning cartoons. So this is what would happen. Sunday morning, these cartoons, I don't know how it is for everybody else where you live, what state you lived in, whatever city you lived in. I don't know how it worked for y'all, but on Sundays, there was only 3 stations that would show cartoons on Sundays. PBS was one. PBS was one. CBS was another one. ABC would do Sunday morning cartoons as well, but they wouldn't start theirs till like 9 o'clock, 9:30, depending on the news. But I remember CBS, they used to do Sunday morning cartoons from like 7 to about 11, because football start up around 11. So yeah. That's what I do remember. But anyways, though, I do remember Braceface. This is one of the few shows that would come on in the morning. Yeah. Definitely remember Braceface. It was the only show that would show up in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, this show would be on. I'd just be watching it just because it was a cartoon. So yeah. Eating cereal. Eating cereal in my SpongeBob drawers. But anyways, though, without further ado, let's get right into it.
Wait, remember Braceface? It's another mainly Canadian-produced cartoon. I know I talk a lot about cartoons from Canada, but how's that my fault? Canada produces a lot of cartoons. Anyway, Braceface was one of those cartoons that may squeak by as a partial memory for a lot of people, because I feel that I have heard
Me being one of them, it's a partial memory. Like I said, I was only watching it because it was only cartoons that would be on in the morning.
hey, what's that cartoon about the girl with the braces again? Quite a bit from Friends. This series would follow the character of Sharon Spitz, who, aside from just having the trademark braces from the title, comes off as your typical girl. For the most part. See, there is some fantastical element to it all, and that is thanks to her braces being able to do certain things that anyone else's braces couldn't, as they can store and send charges of electricity and a lot more than that. But as you'll see, they're really not that important. As someone who did have to go through several years of braces back when I was in school, any of that stuff never happened. The only remotely interesting thing was getting those rubber bands that connected the top and bottom braces together, and I hated them. Anyway, before I get too lost in my own lore, let's jump into what Braceface was all about, what makes this show pretty fascinating, and what happened to it. Braceface, a show about a girl who has braces. What a concept. Something that was really dominating the animation space and the live action space for younger audiences were relatable stories about kids and their view of the world. Sometimes with the addition of a bit of the magical or fantastical sprinkled in to spice things up and make the programs different from one another. And honestly, while Sharon here can't use spells like a witch, you can easily feel that there is a similar vibe to the structure of the show that is also found in live action sitcoms, like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which, if you'd like a deeper dive into both the live action show and the cartoon for Sabrina, I did a big video on them a little while back.
I used to get this show confused with Sabrina. I used to get those two shows mixed up, Sabrina and Braceface. I used to get them both mixed up because I think I'll be watching Sabrina, but it's actually Braceface, and I'll be watching Braceface thinking this and it's actually Sabrina. I'm like, yo, I gotta get these shows together, man, because they both got the same character, bro. But once I figured it out, it is what it is. I mean, I know, like, y'all gonna be like, it's pretty fucking obvious. Braceface is the girl with the braces. It's like, bro, I'm not really paying attention to the show. I'm not really paying attention like that. Come on, Chief.
This premise, though, is something that can be felt across the board, from the shows that came before Braceface and the shows that came after. So it's not like Braceface is breaking the mold and establishing something new, but it plays well to the strengths that it does have in its relatability, and plays with some fun situational concepts thanks to the weird stuff that happens because of her braces. But remember some of the stuff I'm about to bring up, as it will come back into play later on in the video. The show was created by Melissa Clark, inspired by her 6 years of orthodontia, so that whole correcting teeth era of her life would eventually translate into Braceface becoming a cartoon. Both the Canadian studio Nelvana Limited and the Chinese studio Jade Animation came together to produce the show for a release on Teletoon. The show would also come to the States through Fox Family, and had some good backing through getting Alicia Silverstone on board to not only voice the main.
I remember the show being on CBS, but I digress. I specifically remember the show being on CBS. This was a CBS show on Sunday mornings.
Character of Sharon, a voice that Melissa found perfect when meeting with Alicia, but also became an executive producer for the series as she was excited to be a part of the process here. When speaking to the South Florida Sun Sentinel, she notes that she loved the idea of a girl with these huge braces on her face, because that's kind of like puberty. Everything feels like braces on your face at that age. You think something is wrong every day. I certainly felt that way. At that age, everything is huge. You wake up with a pimple on your face and feel like you might die. This truly is a big point for the show, as the braces factor really comes in as this way to explore Sharon's life as she navigates this time in her life with all of the changes that constantly are coming at her, experiencing all the trials and tribulations that come with it. Unlike how Alicia played the character of Cher in the film Clueless, she wanted to bring something more universally relatable to most, making sure that every young girl could identify at least somewhat with Sharon. She's geeky and clumsy and funny and passionate and really excited and really curious and really adorable. And that's so many ands. Holy moly, I need a moment to catch my breath.
Next, Braceface. Back to Braceface.
For entering in Sharon's story here, it all begins with her getting informed that tomorrow her life is about to change because she's getting braces. And that wouldn't be so bad if they didn't present the dentist office as such a scary place. I mean, most kid-aimed media did this, but this was like extra evil feeling. There's a thunderstorm raging outside, all the kids at the dentist are terrified of the dental work they are getting, and hey, wouldn't you know it, something goes wrong. Lightning strikes while Sharon's getting her braces on, causing the power to go out as her braces absorb the energy, and now she's static shock, or Sharon shock, or just Sharon spits. Yes, her name is a pun for swapping spit. Surprisingly, the show doesn't go down the path you think it will take here because of these new random electrical powers that she has, as they only become these moments to put other things in motion or to put emphasis on a specific point. The real focus here is Sharon just being an awkward teen, trying to navigate it all as we follow her dealing with her school life, the relationship she has with her friends and family, as well as the relationship she'll have with boys, and more specifically her on and off boyfriend, Alden. Braceface isn't a show where you get what you get per episode and then the next episode is its own thing. There are details big and small that flow throughout the series that show the progression of Sharon and those in her life around her. So you still get a basic standalone look into her life that is self-contained in each episode, but certain details and life lessons and relationships are brought over and constantly are evolving. We get some time in the series to know both her close friend group and her family, having her live with her older brother Adam and her younger brother Josh, leaving her to be the middle child to a mother who they live with as she is divorced from their father. Their father, however, does play a role in their lives still, and we do get episodes that focus on him and his relationship to his kids. Sharon, well, there's not too much to go on about her and who she is, as I feel just kind of explaining what I have so far really gives you light to that, but in general, she's the typical teenage girl. She doesn't quite know where she fits in, her own ideals are still forming to what they truly are, and she's going to be the main vessel here for the life lessons to be experienced. With the show having such a major focus on the relationships between Sharon and everyone else in her life, that's where the true magic of it all comes from. Her friend Maria is the typical best friend that is both your right-hand person for everything, but also the catalyst of who may aid you in making the wrong decisions that end up getting you in trouble. It's the equivalent of you thinking about doing something and your best friend saying, "You won't," which then somehow flips this switch in your head to go and do said thing because you're taunted about not doing doing it, and now you have to prove that taunt from your friend wrong. She's like that, for the most part. Much like Sharon, she does possess this strong will where it's hard for her to not fight for what she truly believes in or wants, whether that's in the same things Sharon believes and wants, or it being the complete opposite. You can really see why these two are friends, as they will spend time swaying your opinion back and forth about who is more selfish, who does the wrong thing more, who has more boy trouble. The list really goes on, and they are just two peas in a pod. The person who breaks up this little powwow of trouble is Connor, the guy friend of the group. There's always gotta be at least one. He is the divine intervention that both Sharon and Maria need because his moral compass is always good. He's the nerdy type, and that definitely gets played up here and there, but his character really feels early on like a way for the audience to get a voice in regarding whatever shenanigans Sharon or Maria or both of them are up to. Now, as for a character who truly does get to evolve a lot more as the show goes on, Connor fits that bill, but it's also thanks to another character for why this happens, so I'll get back to this in a moment. For now, let's talk about the boyfriend side of things for both Sharon and Maria. Firstly, there's Alden, Sharon's love interest, and the show has this on-again, off-again situation kind of going on for them throughout the series. He's an interesting character in the fact that he does have a lot of character flaws, but when it comes to being represented as a good boyfriend for the most part, you can clearly see his efforts in doing that. He shows that he cares for Sharon, he truly wants to be with her, and shows that he can be there for her for whatever she has going on. But yeah, there are moments where he for sure messes things up in the way that he responds to Sharon, or during the time when they're not together and how he just talks to her. But you never feel like it's a one-sided thing that starts a fight between them. Chop it up to ignorance, chop it up to being a teenager, but for how good of a boyfriend he can be, there is a lot of disconnect between the two of them, which can be built upon and grow throughout the series, to which it does. His best friend is Brock, and for the most part, he is a character that is always putting himself out there for attention, speaking on topics he doesn't know about with authority, or thinking greater of himself and how he presents himself around others. Later, this is a bit reworked thanks to one thing, and that's him getting into a relationship with Maria. This was a choice for the better because his character became better, which can aid in the fact that you can see characters actually grow. Even if it felt like a cliche that both sets of best friends date each other, there's still a lot of good moments that come from it, and I never found it to be too much of a problem. Now let's talk about the antagonist of the show, if you want to label one. Honestly, Sharon does enough stuff on her own that she's her own worst enemy, you know? Anyway, here's Nina, the popular girl who is all about her looks and would have you believing that they are going to be a superstar one day because they are obsessed with the feeling of being adored. There's also really no reason why she hates Sharon the way that she does. Well, okay, there is a reason, but it doesn't justify how awful she actually is because she really goes out of her way to be the absolute worst to her, stopping in the hallways to make fun of her, mess with her relationship with Alden. Basically, whatever she can do to make Sharon's life truly terrible, she'll do. And it's all over something that Sharon didn't even do when they were kids. Either way, this wannabe Daphne here only serves to be the foil for the series. You won't get much from her as a character, but you will get something out of her best friend, or ex-best friend, so let's talk about that. Allison is an interesting character and someone I wanted to bring up more specifically in detail thanks to what happens with her character in the series. Going from being Nina's best friend and following her lead in being awful to Sharon, to then becoming a part of the friend group thanks to her connection to Connor, with that forming from him getting saved by her firefighter father, leading to them linking up, hitting it off, and eventually becoming a thing. This is also the moment that Connor gets to shine more because their relationship builds him up and allows him to grow on his own and not just feel like he's this awkward third wheel to Sharon and Maria's life sometimes. Allison is also this really kind and compassionate person as we see her more post-separating from Nina. I mean, she stands up to her by standing up for her new friends, and what I think is really sweet, how much she really cares for Connor, how she is there for him and only seeing him for who he is, thus bringing out the best in Connor. It's nice that it also feels like life goes on for all of the supporting characters in the background. So while we mainly focus on Sharon, her friends or family all keep moving forward as well, and you can see over time throughout the show's run how they grow and have their own stories, priorities, and events happen. They all never feel like they are just there to serve Sharon's story or support her plots, which added this realism to the show that was refreshingly welcome. It helps give you, the viewer, more investment into the people around her, and it leaves you being the one to understand or connect certain things together. There's a lot to take away from the show, especially as a teen going through similar situations. It can really aid in making things feel more like they make sense at one of, if not the most, confusing time in your life. And in saying that, the show didn't shy away from talking about certain topics or even getting into more controversial ones. So let's start getting into all of that.
Brace yourself for Braceface. Back to Braceface.
The series would last for a total of 78 episodes spanning 3 seasons. Now, there is some confusion here as there were weird splits for 2 of the seasons, so it may be contested that there are actually 5 seasons, but for the sake of how I see it officially listed, I'll be referring to the series as having 3 seasons. So as the series would go on, season 3 would see some changes, with one major one being that Alicia Silverstone would no longer be voicing Sharon, and instead she would now be voiced by Stacey DePass. Something Alicia was really passionate about was using the series as a connective piece of her vegan platform for her advocacy for animal rights, which is something that you can see in the show, but eventually, by this 3rd season, she left. Thus, Stacey took over the role. Melissa herself would even leave the show partway through its final season, as she was particularly burned out with writing in the genre of tween girl and wanted to shift focus to a novel she was writing at the time and felt proud enough of everything she had already thus far created. A big reason that I talk about this show having the same feelings of something in the live action realm is because, aside from fitting the same structure and mold, originally Braceface was pitched as a live action series. In a 2020 podcast episode of the show The Relunchables, Melissa Clark joined on as a guest to discuss Braceface, where she then goes into some details about the show coming together in general. With Nirvana looking to stick their toes into the pool of live action, Melissa brought her idea of Braceface to them and presented it as a live action series. They were looking for a boy as the main lead, and for Braceface in the beginning here, it was pitched as the main lead being a boy. In the end, however, Nelvana still really liked this idea about a character with braces, and to not jump into the deep end of live action just yet, they wanted to make Braceface as an animated show. They also were the ones who decided that the main character here should be a girl instead, and that even really surprised Melissa, as she had no clue as to why they wanted to change it. But these stories and ideas all stemmed from Melissa's real-life horror of dealing with braces. Like I mentioned earlier, she had to deal with them for longer than most people would. She wore braces from 7th to 12th grade, and all of the problems that she went through all came from her original orthodontist, who first went bankrupt during the middle of her treatment, but then come to find out that there were worse things going on, as her new orthodontist called the previous one an idiot who had been doing it all wrong, restarting her whole braces process. So yeah, I get why they made the orthodontist so scary in the show. With this being a show that was meant to be relatable and grow with the viewer, the series would also start to tackle other aspects of puberty that is nothing unlike you'd see in a lot of live action sitcoms, more so in the era of the late 80s and early 90s that were aimed at young adults and teenagers, but less so in live action sitcoms aimed directly at younger audiences. This led to the infamous run of unaired episodes that, for one reason or another, never were played on TV, at least for broadcast in the US. Canada had them premiere on TV just fine. The episodes were basically the whole back half of season 2, so they were For the Birds, an episode about standing up for animal rights. Oh, Grow Up, an episode about Sharon becoming traumatized as a pet that she is tending as a veterinarian intern passes away. Genesis, which is about Sharon being jealous and feeling replaced by another girl named Genesis who comes into her life. Nina's Nose Job, which deals with Sharon accidentally starting a rumor about Nina getting a nose job. Baby Think About It, where Sharon is tested as a parent by having to take care of a fake baby. Miss Spitz Goes to Washington, aside from being a fun play on Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, is an episode about Sharon protesting a cosmetics brand that performs animal testing with their products. When in Rome, where on a trip to Italy, things in Sharon's life get a bit complicated as her friend Maria has to deal with conflicting values that her grandparents have, and everyone ends up kissing someone. Pegged, which is about a battle of the bands that's specifically for girls only, but the boys end up disguising themselves as girls to join in. Aliens, which no, doesn't truly revolve or have anything to do with the extraterrestrial, is about how a friendship can be strained and learning to overcome hurdles in a friendship as you grow up. When in Elkford, which deals with Sharon's Italian friend that she was caught kissing in Italy, now coming for a visit as Sharon pursues that relationship further, leading to some extreme complications and ultimately leaving Marcello here to go off with Nina, which is pretty messed up. And lastly, there's Up in Smoke, an episode that focuses on Sharon going off to live with her dad and his girlfriend has a son named Griffin, and he's shown off to be nothing but trouble, and through this we get the good old smoking is bad ad, where Sharon ends up smoking and sees how bad it truly is. You're probably thinking, wait, what's the matter with most of these? And the answer would be, not really anything. There shouldn't be too many reasons for the US not to play these episodes, but as it turns out, the US syndication of the series was basically over. It gets very confusing since the series in the States would then go on to play on Disney networks and for reruns, only play a select bit of episodes, leaving a total of 37 episodes to never air on TV in the US. Aside from how the US was very strict on what would make it to air, Braceface had already offered one too many instances of moments that turned into problems for some.
Braceface next. Back to Braceface.
Going back and looking at the first season, there's a few episodes that stick out here, with the most notable being The Worst Date Ever, period, which deals with Sharon having her first period, which even Melissa notes as something pretty taboo to include in a cartoon, and it did become somewhat controversial. Another instance comes from another season 1 episode that featured Sharon going to a party and getting drunk on rum and cola. Of course, she faced consequences for this, but for the portrayal of it, and in mentioning a specific drink mix, it definitely caught some attention. There would be small things here and there, but this only grew more concerning for what the US would allow to be played, as the front half of season 2 pretty much put the nail in the coffin for the series continuing thanks to episodes like Mommy Nearest, that deals with Sharon accidentally stumbling across an adult website, and then beyond that, some of the general material that's in the unaired episodes of that season. So then when it came to the third season of Braceface, it only ever aired in Canada, and with that, the most infamous thing from the show would happen, and that's the episode Busted, which dealt with Sharon wanting to be seen more as a woman. So she purchases a special bra that can, well, boost some things, and eventually this gets out of hand. They end up getting boosted too much and explode in front of everyone, and yeah, this episode became the big bad banned one that never aired again. I've seen a lot of conflicting things back and forth about this episode even premiering in the US at all, so I can't confirm or deny that, but you can certainly see why it's banned. At least at the end of that episode, we see that Griffin has a nice moment with Sharon as he talks about how he has quit smoking, bringing back in that detail about him and getting to see that he has his own growth and character development, which is a good example of what I mean by how it keeps things flowing in and out of the series that show there is always some form of constant progression happening. Regardless of how you feel about an episode like Busted, Braceface really set out to be a show that was about a young teen girl's experience of growing up, dealing with puberty, understanding your friends as you all become more defined as the people you are, understanding the relationship between you and your parents, especially if you are in a family where your parents are divorced, learning what's right and wrong, the dangers that come from wanting to grow up too fast, the dangers that come from smoking or drinking, and even some online safety for good measure. Even on the more controversial topics the show would bring up, there still was a level of relatability for many who were this age and struggling to understand a lot of what was going on. The main goal the show had was to normalize all of the mysterious, scary, weird, or unknown feelings and experiences that a girl may go through, as well as a lot of things that just a teenager would go through. I don't think the show is perfect in the sense of every decision they made or how certain stories are portrayed, but I still believe that it did just that. It normalized the feeling of unnormal. The whole aspect of the braces being woven into all of this only truly has them around to be an aid in visually expressing these awkward moments and giving some explanation in a fun way as to why it's happening. But they don't overstep and truly make the braces the cause of it. They just represent the situation, if that makes sense. I do find the show overall to be a pretty fun watch, and having seen a decent bit of the show when it originally aired, I knew what to expect, but even then, I was still surprised on some of the topics that were brought up. Having a main character whose parents are divorced as she experiences both sides getting into new relationships is a thing you don't see represented all that much, especially in cartoon-based media. I feel that there is definitely an audience who can relate to something like this more specifically. But here's something we can all relate to right now. Sharon and her group of friends also feel like genuine friends. From the way they all talk to one another to how they are there for one another, and even in any conflicts between them, it all comes off as real moments that friends, all with unique personalities, wants, hobbies, etc., can collide with one another, but also then learn to grow with this and maybe understanding that there will be some distance that comes in between you and your friends, but that's okay. It doesn't mean you can't be friends and that you've completely grown apart. It just means that you're all growing up and all trying to figure out the world around you. There's a lot of really good life lessons to take away from Braceface, and I do appreciate how it touches on and tackles some of them. It doesn't let a character get off the hook if they do something wrong. They get time to learn and understand why it is wrong and then move forward making things right in the proper ways that apply to whatever that situation would be. And much like how it could be for a teenager in real life, sometimes you don't learn your lesson just once, and you may be dealing with a trait that just doesn't go away right away, or if ever. But for the most part, if Sharon takes something too far or does something that unknowingly hurts another person, she will come to understand how that affected them and work to make things right. If Sharon gets in trouble for drinking, her father explains the dangers of what drinking does and what awful things it can lead to, especially for a girl who is not of age to drink. I appreciate the detail that went into making it feel all like a realistic action and reaction for the majority of the show. Overall, you might find yourself enjoying a lot of what this cartoon has to offer, but you tell me, have you seen Braceface? And if so, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.
I remember just a couple of episodes because they used to run these episodes in a loop. They used to play like, I want to say like 7 or 8 episodes in a loop. They never really see, I don't know if CBS had the full rights to the show. I don't think CBS had the full rights to the show. I think they just got it because it was getting shopped around. So that's probably what happened. It was probably getting shopped around, and CBS just picked it up and said, we'll take a couple episodes. But yeah, it wasn't like really any new episodes. It was like it was literally like a 8 episode rotation with this show. And at some point, I just stopped watching this show altogether because it's like, okay, if I'm gonna just keep watching the same 8 fucking episodes, then yeah, I'm good. And it's understandable why they didn't and now I understand why they didn't show anything past the why they didn't show any new episodes, because apparently the second season is too controversial, too hot for TV. Which I didn't know. I didn't know about the breast episodes and the goddamn I didn't know about all this shit. Yeah, they was tackling on some serious shit. And I'm kind of interested to kind of go ahead and watch it now, considering this a kid show, but still, I'm kind of interested to see what the other episodes is talking about. This show has sparked my interest again, because like I said, CBS want to go with like an 8 episode rotation, and that's not good. Every Sunday, 8 episode rotation. Get the fuck out of here. But anyway, so that's just gonna about do it for this one. I do remember Braceface, just don't remember it vividly. Like this episode right here, the hockey episode. This was in the eight episode rotation. I can't really think of a lot of them off the top of my head, but there was a lot. There was like I said, it was like 8 or 9 episodes in rotation, bro, for every fucking Sunday. But that's all I remember. Man, that's just gonna about do it for this one. I'll see you on the next video. Till then, peace out.